Wendy Addison, and I'm welcoming you into my studio to do a wonderful project that I've been very close to my heart, the Tinsel Butterfly Kit. I am going to show you, before we get started, I'm going to show you some of the beautiful materials involved and give you a little bit of information about them, because some of them are very, very special. Starting out, this is what you call bullion. Bullion is basically wire that has been twisted into a coil of some sort, and it is designed originally for decorative use on military uniforms and so forth. It was also frequently used to decorate Christmas ornaments in the 1880s. The way that you use this beautiful material is by pulling it apart. And it gives a tiny decorative glistening effect to anything that you make. I use it on so many different things, and we're going to be using it to bring a little lively light and ornament to the butterfly wings. These are Dresden paper trims. These are embossed and die-cut stamped papers from East Germany. They're made on the same machinery that was used in the 1880s. And so it is another really, really precious material, such beautiful golds and silvers. This material here, these are all antique Czechoslovakian glass jewels, all different kinds and colors and shapes. And I got my hands on these by basically unloading them from a dumpster in New York City in the garment district, where a very, very old bead and button company was going out of business. So you're going to be all using all of these materials. This is also what you're going to find in your kit is a little bit of this tinsel thread. And I turned this tinsel thread into a tiny sort of tassel-like addition that's going to be attached to the tail of your butterfly. So I love using, of course, antique and vintage materials in my creations. I find them so inspiring, and I think you will also. So I'm going to open up this kit first right off, and we're going to kind of go through the materials really quickly. There is a little sort of a cheat sheet diagram here. If you need to refer back to it later, it's very simplistic, but I'm hoping that this video is going to give you much more detail. So you have two butterflies that need to be cut out with scissors. And you have a package of these Czechoslovakian glass jewels, more than enough to decorate several butterflies. You have a little brass bell, you have some of that coiled wire bullion, you have a tinsel tail, some antenna, you have some of this beautiful fancy delicate horsehair trim from about 1920. You have two hangers that are going to be used to hang up your butterflies, a small package of silver glass glitter, and a glassine bag containing a nice assortment of that Dresden trim, including little stars and buttons. And you have more than you will need to finish two butterflies, so you can sort of pick and choose. You certainly don't have to use everything. But step one, of course, is going to be to cut out your butterfly. And I encourage you to, I have to put my glasses on, excuse me. I encourage you to be fairly careful with the detail and not leave any white paper, which never looks good. And I know that some of you are going to be able to do this actually much faster and better than I am. Most of these edges are going to be decorated with either with glitter or covered with Dresden. You need a good pair of sharp scissors here. Cut out the bottom, and then we're going to be ready to go. So there's your butterfly. Now, one thing that I also do is I cut into the wings in between the upper and lower wings. And I want to be very careful to stay away from the body, but I'm going to cut into the wings because I want them to separate somewhat. It'll just give it a more three-dimensional quality after this beautiful creation is finished. So I'm going to show you different ways of decorating the edges, and there's many ways of doing it, but and you have to do your own aesthetic creation here, of course. But I want to show you some of the basics of what I do to have a lot of fun with this one project. I am going to do a little tiny bit of glittering, and basically I'm just going to glitter the bottom delicate edge of the wings, and I'm doing this with my finger dipped in tacky glue, but you can also use Elmer's would probably work. I'm also going to show you how to use a hot glue gun to get the exact same effect. But if you can see, I just put a tiny edge of glue on there with my finger. I cut into my glitter, and I'm just going to sprinkle a delicate tiny edge onto the ends of that bottom butterfly wing. Now I'm going to show you how to do basically the same thing with a hot glue gun. You have to be very light-handed with the hot glue, and you also have to work quickly because, as you know, the hot glue sets up very fast. So I'm going to, oops, I got a glob of glue there. I'm sure you've had that happen. I'm going to run very quickly over the edges here with a very light hand. It's not quite as delicate, but it's still very pretty, and it gives you a tiny glistening outline for your butterfly wing there. So I'm going to put the glitter aside. You can do that on all of the wings, but I also gave you this wonderful assortment of Dresden trim, which I'm myself prefer to use along the top outside of these wings. I'm going to cut this approximately to size. I'm going to leave a little bit of extra. And in order to make this Dresden glue down in a curve around the wing, I'm going to cut slightly, not all the way through, but cut slightly into the indents of each one of those scallops. This is going to enable me to sort of ease it into a curve when I put it on the wing. So I'm going to put a bead of glue around the outside of my wing. Once again, I'm going to try to use a light hand with that. Start at the top and ease it around the curves. I'll put a little bit more glue there. So that's how I want it to end up there. I'm going to show you the back because it overlaps. I definitely want it to overlap. It's going to give you a much more delicate look. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to do the other side, the same thing. It's about that long. I'm going to cut into the indents. Not all the way through. Oops, sorry. Working as quickly as I can. Turn it as I go, very carefully. Tiny bit more glue there. Okay, so already I just think that that is such a beautiful combination of materials. The Dresden paper, the metallic silver, and the little touches of glitter are so pretty already. But now we get to do a much more fun part. We're going to open up the package of beautiful jewels, Czechoslovakian jewels, and just spread them out on the table and look and see what you've got. I would turn everything over. And everyone, of course, has a different assortment. I couldn't really quite pick through them all. But everyone has quite a few different colors and sizes and shapes. And I would kind of be fairly careful and take your time on picking out where you want to put these ornaments. If you have one very special fancy one like this bow, which is really, really beautiful color also, I might put that aside and use it on the body. I've got some stars here, several kinds. I've got these beautiful blue, which I think I'm definitely going to use right away as a sort of centerpiece right there on the wings. And I tend to, when I'm making these, I tend to put the large stones towards the outside of the wings, and then smaller stones graduating down and a few on the inside. But let's see here. I think I'm going to use, I've got two of these beautiful little round mirrors. And I think I'm going to put them right here. So pretty. One of my favorite things, and I'm sure everyone has these, are these miniature mirror-backed crosses. I just love putting them in multiple places. So I'm going to do that. Now you can put hot glue on the back of your stone and drop it down, or you can put a very small bead of glue on the paper. And then press the jewel into it. So I'm just going to kind of continue it at my whim. And I love these tinies. The tiny ones are actually make it so much more attractive and glistening to have these little tiny ones. So I'm going to put those right here. They're a little bit more trouble, but they add a lot to the final effect. And let's see, what else do I have? I've got some of these little tiny, tiny stars. I'm gonna take my 2 gold stars and I think I'm gonna put them right in here. So I'm not going to overload this. I like the way it's looking right now. What have I got here also? I've got some reds. Got some more greens. I'm going to put these aside for now. I can always add more later. And I also want to save some for my other butterfly. But I also wanted to show you the other things that we're going to do, other decorative elements that we're going to add to this beautiful piece. I would like you to open up this bag. And we're going to play with the contents. First thing is your bouillon. You should each have, I don't know, maybe 4 inches or so. This stuff actually stretches out to quite a bit of material, and that is the first thing I want you to do, is stretch out the bouillon. It stretches out to about 6 times its length, so I'm going to end up with quite a long piece of bouillon here. And I'm going to find the 2 ends, kind of loop them together. And then I'm going to start to make a large looping I'm just going to kind of loop it up here into kind of a loose circle. Hold on, I'm going to get a piece of white cardboard so that you can see this better. Okay, so what I want to end up with basically is kind of a large loop, and when I get that loop, I'm going to pinch it together in the middle. Okay, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take my bouillon, I'm going to pull it apart, it broke a little bit. I'm going to pull it apart, I'm going to loop it around my hands, around my fingers, so that I have a loop, and then I'm going to meet it in the middle and just twist it. So what you basically have is a double loop. It kind of looks like butterfly wings, actually, if you look at it. And this little piece of ornamentation is going to glue it right down here in the middle. So I'm going to put a bead of glue on here, a tiny little blob of glue. I'm going to set that down there, and I'm going to set it in place either with 3 little tiny stars, or if I want to, I can pick out one of my jewels, like this beautiful bow, and I can set this on top of it to keep that bouillon in place. And what the bouillon does is it enlivens the paper. Everything that we are adding here is making this paper butterfly, some of these are sticking, is making this paper butterfly more 3-dimensional. Moving the wings, adding the Dresden, the jewels, the bouillon wire, it just makes it explode with energy and makes it come alive. Excuse me. So a few more things we're going to add here. we are going to put a tail on our butterfly, and I gave you two different tails. One of them is a little tiny German brass bell, which is the old-fashioned kind of bell. It's a sleigh bell. So it makes a beautiful little sound, and it is brass. And if you wanted to use the bell, you would attach it by putting a blob of glue, and then you would take a little Dresden button and you would glue that down right there to attach the bell. And so you could do that on one of your butterflies. On the other one, I have a pre-made tinsel tail. Really beautiful, made with antique metal thread from France. And these are a beautiful ending. So I'm going to use that one. A little tiny bit of glue. And I'm going to put it right on the bottom of the body. Every time you add another piece of texture, you're bringing this butterfly to more life. So 2 more things here. Actually 3 more things. You can add antenna. And these are like amazingly authentic looking, like moth and or butterfly antenna. And I also love to use this antique millinery trim. If I were going to use these, I would trim them, 2 of them off. And glue them down in an opposing direction, just like that. And this beautiful gilded edged material, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. I'm just going to glue these together in sort of a V shape and glue them right to the back of the head. There's something magical about all of these materials together. I also like to kind of crimp these so that they look like they've been semi-crushed. So you would want a hanger. So you would get one of your hangers, which is also made with antique metal thread. And I'm going to just put a tiny bit of glue on the back of that little daisy. And it's going to go right back here behind the head so that you can hang this up as an ornament. Now you also have 3 messages in your kit, and I am going to cut one of these out. And I think I'm going to insert it right about there. So I'm going to cut it at a slight angle, and then I'm going to swallowtail the ends of the paper. I'm going to put a tiny tab of glue right there. And I'm going to actually put mine right there. And I'm going to crimp this little message also because I think it looks more lively. So there I have one absolutely stunningly beautiful butterfly. I'm going to show you the back. And I'm going to show you a top view so that you can see how the wings should separate. But it is a beautiful, beautiful gift to give someone, and it's just a beautiful ornament, of course. A beautiful ornament to use on a Christmas tree, or to keep it out, something lovely to look at all year long. So thank you so much for joining us, and if you have any questions, follow-up questions, comments, or anything, please feel free to email me, and I'd love to hear back from you. And I hope you join me again. Thank you so much.